Hey, welcome back to Sparking Innovation. This is a podcast from Provisio, the largest Salesforce implementation partner solely for human services. I'm Tom Moran, here to inspire nonprofits and government agencies to drive change in their communities by embracing change in their organizations. And today we're talking about data visualization, which is some really cool stuff, and it's really a vital skill for any mission-driven organization to reveal new insights and ultimately better tell their impact stories. And that's because long data sets that are listed like, let's just say, the check for a large group dinner are hard to decipher. And we all know what that's like, trying to run through all the line items and add it all up to split the check 10 different ways and figure out who owes what of tip as well. I mean, it just gets confusing. But charts, graphs, and maps are not confusing. So when it comes to nonprofits, data visualization empowers organizations to easily show how they're impacting a community instead of just telling about it. And we'll dig into how that can increase funding, improve community standing, and ultimately motivate staff as well. So joining me today is Alex Montgomery, Senior Director of Impact and Advocacy at Chinese American Service League, also known as CASL here in Chicago. Provisio worked with CASL to boost their data visualization capabilities through a great tool called Tableau. And because of this partnership, CASL is now spearheading a data sharing effort called Change Insight with other organizations serving the Asian American community. And that's revealing just a ton of great information about this rapidly growing demographic. And we also have Josefine Hansen, Senior Data Analyst here at Provisio, and Joe was heavily involved in configuring the dashboards for this program. So Alex and Joe, you two know each other well, so welcome to the pod.
Thanks. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so Joe, let's start with you. From a broad 30,000-foot view, what is data visualization and what makes it so impactful for mission-driven organizations?
Yeah, I mean, it's a large question, right? But in short, data visualization is a representation in a graphical form. And with a mission, right, there's an idea, there's a reason why you are wanting to know the mission. You want to know how you're driving the mission. And that's really where data visualization can be an incredible tool, because you're able to not just see one data point in, let's say, a graph, a pie chart, right? Any individual can understand a pie chart, but you're also able to combine different graphical views into one. So it can be used for individuals that are not tech savvy, super tech savvy, and it tells you a story. It not only tells the story, but also gives you evidence into the story. Your data is only as good as what you can represent, right? So if you choose one data value over another, it's going to populate the truth. It's not going to show you anything that is not correct or anything like that. So that's where you're able to really show the mission is true, and you can edit it through that because anyone can see it. Anyone can understand it.
Sure. So, Alex, you came to Provisio so we could help you implement data visualization dashboards for, again, Change Insight. So, what are the positive outcomes that you've seen so far, and how is data visualization playing a role in that?
So Change Insight started 3 years ago. CASL started it because they had seen through our other work with Provisio the power of visualizing data, collecting it and visualizing it and really looking at it. And I like to say people get scared of data, and I'm like, it's just organized information. It's just organized information, and then being able to look at it to see what the trends are and what's happening. So we had some success, and funders were really excited about it because funders are often like, we want to know if our dollars are getting us somewhere or if this is the best way to spend them. And what better way than to track what you're doing and then give them data results. But those data results, to your point, can't be an Excel spreadsheet. They really need to be a visualization. So we came up with this idea to work with AANHPI, that's Asian American Native Pacific Islanders across the country, other nonprofits, to help them also become more data informed and understand what was happening in their community. So we have partners, and the partners collect data on what I call social risk factors, the social drivers of health. And so we sort of help them do that, and then we do the visualization for them. So this dashboard we're talking about, what we were able to give back to these organizations and then also create a broad one with all the data we collected. So what was important was to be able to look at the data that's collected, but also to filter it. So one of our main purposes is, if you think of the Asian community, we talk about it like it's one community, but it's not. I mean, in data sets, AANHPI includes the Tongan community next to the Chinese community, next to the Asian community, and they all speak different languages and have different cultures. So to think that their risks are the same is, when you talk about it that way, pretty ridiculous. So we wanted to look at that data set and then be able to disaggregate. So the filtering and the dynamic, factors in that dashboard were critical to what we were trying to do, and for nonprofits to understand what they had collected and what it meant to them.
And so what sorts of things have you started to learn? I mean, now that you've collected all this data and you have all these, organizations participating, what are you uncovering?
Well, a lot of what I like to say to partners is, we're not necessarily surprised by what we're finding out. It's more that it's proving what we knew, right? So when you go to a nonprofit and they've been working deeply in a community, they can say, I just know that people are struggling with housing because I'm talking to so many community members. But that doesn't work for a funder or for a policymaker to be like, oh, I just know. You need to prove it. So a lot of these dashboards are proving what communities already know, that, there are these struggles in the community. Like, see, I knew they were struggling with this, and now I have my chart that shows you that slice of the pie is big. The other piece that for us is really important is making communities visible. So we had a partner this last year, the Chin community in Indiana. So the Chin is an ethnic community within Burma that even our other partners had never heard of. So not only saying, okay, this community, there's about 50,000 of them in Indiana, exists, and then to say, and here's some data points on their needs and the language they speak. And so now they have a data visualization of that they can show to stakeholders, funders, and hopefully get more attention on the work they're doing in order to expand it.
And how many partner organizations are involved now?
As of this last year, 30 across the country, and we are still growing. So it's really exciting.
And what sort of feedback are you getting from the partner organizations? I mean, what are they saying, when you bring them on board and they're getting to partake in this as well? I mean, what's their reaction?
So they're amazed. I mean, the dashboard is the crown jewel, no question. I skip over the rest of my presentations and I just go to the dashboard and say, and this is what it looks like. And people's eyes light up and are like, oh, I get it now. They love the map. So the map, and then we're able to circle parts of the map. You're like, oh, did you just want to look at the south side of Chicago? And then all the data adjust to that part of the map. So that stuff is really exciting for people. And like I say, some of it is just proving it. We have an organization serving the Filipino community, and they say, we struggle in Chicago with people, stakeholders understanding there is a Filipino community because there's no Filipino town. Right? Like, we've got Chinatown, but we don't have Filipino town. So they use that map to say, but we're here and here's where we are. So it's really, sort of seeing it. I also think that organizations, once they see it in the visual form, sort of understand the power of the data. Without it, it just feels like work. I don't know why I'm doing this. My boss said I have to collect this data. But when they see the dashboard, they go, oh, this is telling me something about the community, again, that either I already knew or something new about what's happening. So I think data visualization is really the point. It's the thing that people can understand. I mean, even those of us who are not tech savvy, you look at a news article or something, and then you see the chart go up, and you're like, oh, something happened there. So for us, using it with Change Insight, it's all ones and zeros unless you sort of have that chart and say, oh, I see it's going up or it's going down. So for us to use a dashboard like this that's really dynamic allows us to show our partners, this isn't just collecting data for no reason. This is collecting data so that we can see and understand something about our communities.
And can you talk about the process of working with Provisio to improve your data visualization capabilities? What was it about the partnership that made the project successful? And could you just talk about the journey to get to that point?
Yeah, so I was not here for our first year of Change Insight, but our first year of Change Insight, we had these sort of static dashboards. It was our first year. We were trying to figure out what this project was. And so there's a bunch of tons of static dashboards sort of crammed together. And then when I came into CASL and worked with Joe, we were like, okay, we're going to get this more dynamic dashboard that can also grow with us as we expand. And so for me, I'm not a tech person. I'm not even really a data person. I'm a nonprofit person. So to have Provisio there to say, okay, this is what I want to do. Can we do that? And how can you do that? And then have them say, yeah, we got it. This is how we're going to embed the data. This is how we're going to, this is the different ways you can visualize. And we added maps, and how do we track the maps? And so having Provisio there to sort of make the technical part, to make what we wanted to happen, and have that technical expertise that we don't have in house, is the only way this was going to work.
One of my favorite parts was the collaboration that we were able to have, right? Because we're adding language to data. You are the language person. I might know the ins and outs of the data. And as much as you want to say that you're not a data person, I think you have evolved to become that. You've spoken on the beautiful dashboard so many times now, but it's still one of my favorite projects that I have done in my career. Especially because of the language that we put around data. There wasn't just one mission. There was you could go into depths and all of that stuff. So it was really great. I had a really fun time.
So, Joe, in layman's terms, for those of us like myself, and Alex claims that she's not a data person, but I think that she is, what does a nonprofit or government agency have to do to harness the power of data visualization? What's the roadmap to get to that point to be able to harness this tool?
Yeah, I mean, with any roadmap, you got to start from the beginning, right? So that's acknowledging your current state. Where is your current raw data coming from? Any visualization that you create is only going to be as good as your data is. Now, an organization doesn't have to have the most robust CRM, data warehouse, or anything like that. It can come from a simple spreadsheet, right? As Alex already said, the first initiative of their dashboard was static. It was coming from an export maybe a months back, right? But then seeing it in visualization, applying that type of power to it, they wanted to make it dynamic. And so they took the change in order to make sure that it was a continuous flow of data and that they weren't lagging in a couple of months span for those dashboards. So even if it is that you start at the static level, what visualization is going to do is allow you to see it. And your mind, I promise you, is going to go all different areas, right? Of what else can we do, or how come, or as Alex said, we knew this, so what's our next step? And so that's really where you want to start, right? Having a mission is always helpful and anything like that. We don't necessarily have to have it either, because you work for an organization. Your organization is doing work every single day. There are so many data points occurring through all out. So are you wanting to see a holistic view? Are you wanting to gear into a specific program? Are you wanting to kind of do an analysis across programs of how many individuals do we have engaging with our employment, our housing, and maybe our education programs? What is the overlap there? And what can we do to increase overlap? Is there specific classes that are really engaging for individuals who are in need of employment, right? Is it a training class, or is it a continued employment class? Any type of questions like that, they can come from static, right? And then when you put it into a view and you start to analyze it, you start to come to answers. And that's really the best part. And especially, I'm a huge fan of Tableau, as you all know, but that's really what Tableau allows. It doesn't have to be dynamic. It doesn't have to be one way or another. Every organization is different. Starting at the beginning is only going to really lay out that potential large roadmap, an idea, or even just the mission. It doesn't have to be massive. You can break that down and put it into steps as it is that you're growing your technology and data-driven organization, is what I would say.
I'm glad that you brought up Tableau, actually. So could you just talk a little bit more about Tableau? What makes it such a great tool?
Absolutely. Well, Tableau, it is a visualization tool. So it is not meant for storing a bunch of data. You can obviously kind of modify any types of tools like that. They have many other sides of Tableau in order to suffice with that. But with the visualization, what's really great about Tableau is all the different connectors that you can have. It doesn't have to come from Salesforce. It doesn't have to come from an Excel spreadsheet. You can connect to so many different ways. And even within that, you can modify and connect different data sets. So many organizations, they have data in maybe a spreadsheet, maybe they're using a CRM, maybe they are partnering with an external data source as well, where they need components of that data, and you can you can create relationships within that data to make sure that your data set is what you want to show and really visualize through. Alongside with that, it is extremely user friendly. I know it's in the English language, if you almost want to say it like that. You don't have to really understand and the ins and outs of how it is that you come from start at A and you get all the way to Z when it comes to a chart. And then really the filtering capabilities, right? That's what we're always talking about is you can tell the story from one click through the next. You see the effect when you create one filter, and then you can move through. And then the best part that always gets everyone super excited is the mapping component. The mapping component is really, and within human services, my favorite part about it is that one data point, you're creating a human, right? You are showing who they are, where they're located, what additional data points that make up to be this individual, right? We're not just looking at it as, oh, that's a data point there and that's a data point there. We're adding the human factor to this visualization, which makes it even then more impactful.
I just wanted to comment on sort of the, and Joe's talking about like the data sets. And I think data is one of those things that people think it's like when you say budgets, people are like, I don't understand. It's scared. And it's math and numbers. But I think of it, in terms of like creating a visualization, also like the components you might add in are think about like if you're at a nonprofit, I like to say you want to ask the data a question. What do you want to know? I want to know if seniors in this program also have, housing issues, or in our Change Insight data, I like to say, I want to know if seniors with limited English proficiency are more lonely, for example. That would be a way. And so you'd filter it that way. But in order to ask the data a question, so then once you ask the question, you know what data sets you want in there. Right? I think that's part of the problem is like, I don't know what I'm adding or what I'm doing. But if it's like, I want to know from this program, this age group, something about them, then you can figure that out. And then you use Tableau to put those pieces together. And you're like, oh, so my question was, are seniors more lonely? And does language have a factor in that? Then you have the data sets and you filter and you get the answer to that question. I think some of the biggest struggles are, I don't even know what to do with it or what I'm looking for. And you do but you do, right? You know what you're curious about or you need to know for your community. And that's really sort of getting that question out first helps you figure out what visualization you want to make and what data points to put in there.
At the staff level, are you seeing that people are becoming like more data literate as well? And that people are like understanding how this works? I mean, because I imagine like when you first bring that on, there must be so many people at the staff level who are like, this is way outside the ballpark of anything that I know or anything like that. And like, are you seeing people buy into it and kind of hop on the bandwagon since then? And
yeah, so for us, some of our biggest success stories are organizations that do it have been a partner for 1 year and then say, oh my gosh, we're going to launch Salesforce. Like, we get it now. We even have a partner who had already been collecting this data, but had never visualized it together. So they were like, oh, we never looked at all of this together. We just did it client by client, and now we get it. And so for sure, I like to say sometimes for partners in their first year, this is like a kit. I'm like, this is like a start your own data adventure kit. We're going to tell you the questions to ask, when to ask them, and then we're going to show you the visualization and you're going to go, oh, I get it now. And so that, for sure is happening. One thing we've added though is that is what we call data digest sessions, because some of this stuff we're talking about here, people see the dashboard and they're like, I know this is cool, but it's a lot. And how do I extrapolate something I can use out of it? And that's the whole asking the data a question. And so we do sort of regular sessions for all of our partners to say, let's talk through how we're actually going to take this visualization and turn it into something we've learned in order to get money, change our programs, whatever it may be. But we definitely see people, because of the visualization specifically, getting it and being excited about it.
Joe, having worked with CASL on Change Insight, what excites you most about what they're doing?
There's a lot to choose from, but I would echo what Alex has already explained. It's the collaboration, right? And she is getting the word out there on data. They're bringing a view to their other agencies. They're basically doing the hard work at the beginning to get introduced to data visualizations, and they're getting excited about it. I mean, from the first meeting that I was on with Alex, you were so excited. There were so many questions that you wanted answered, and you're bringing that to other partners. You're bringing that to other individuals, and you're allowing them to kind of have a little further step up on their roadmap to do their own initiatives too, right? To go deeper into their organizational data and analyze it and take that step further and show their individual impact as well. So the overall collaboration that a visualization allows is always my favorite thing. And it really does excite me. And I love to hear that it still has a continued use, right? You started it 2 years ago and it's still being used and it's still gaining more eyes, and it's still gaining what is the end goal, really. Yes, we now see that what we already knew. We see the evidence. This is what it is. Now, what can we do potentially further? What is our end goal from there? And that is the loveliness of adding questions to data is going to bring your mind and bring more impact in all sorts of ways.
And I can't
So,
overstate what it means. Sorry, Tam. I just want to say I can't overstate what it means for these nonprofits to have these visualizations and being able to pull out a photo, like sort of a shot of the chart and put it into an application. It just levels up what a lot of these nonprofits have been capable of. So I just can't overstate it. It's to have that beautiful visualization also has an effect, sort of even if it's just on a, aesthetic level.
But with Tableau too, I mean, if we're talking to really small nonprofits that are not there, they don't have a person really that's dedicated to understanding the depths and insights of their data and in charged with making sure that they have data quality. Tableau, you can get a free license, right? And even with a nonprofit organization, the licensing prices are also a lot lower than for a for-profit organization. And so even if you're just wanting to explore what this application data, what does that look like if I visualize it? They have the ability to do so without needing to pay a bunch of money or really having a full grant that's supported from the back end, right? You can still start the exploration and start the beginning stages of your roadmap to see what data visualizations can do for your organization, which is also one of my favorite parts as well. And yeah, I mean, and then they have different ways in which that you can show the dashboards, right? So in CASL's example, right, we're utilizing a portal to embed this dashboard and allowing external users to view a dashboard. So even though the dashboard lives in one place, we can embed it in many different places and allow for so many different users to interact with it. And so there's just endless options from the beginning on how it is that you can share your insights to so many more people.
and so, Alex, what's ahead for Change Insight 5 years from now? What kind of outcomes are you hoping to see at that point?
So we're working on multiple fronts, and we're evolving the initiative. These first 3 years, I like to say, it's been 3 years, so we're a toddler, but maybe more adolescent. So this dashboard was a big leap forward for sure. And now we're sort of evolving what this data collection means for communities, and also how do we make take action out of it. So we're looking at what it would be to have sort of cohorts of partners that would collect data, maybe not annually as we do it now, but every few years, since we're collecting this sort of snapshot of the community, and communities don't change typically so quickly, but that we would also then use this data as a platform for coalition building. And how do we take what we have here and then help make change across the country and for specific community groups? So really, how do we take this data and take our partnership and change policy and change funding, which has been historically very low for the Asian American serving community organizations.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, I think that data visualization is really, really cool. I mean, again, I'm a visual learner, and I think a lot of people are visual learners, so I can only imagine, like, how helpful this is for not just, again, everybody at CASL, but, all of your partner organizations as well. So, Alex, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Joe, thank you so much to you as well.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if you think this stuff is as cool and as exciting as we do here at Provisio and are also inspired by how CASL is harnessing the power of data visualization, head to Provisio's data management and strategy page to learn how we can help your organization create charts and graphs and maps and dashboards that better tell your impact story. A link is in the episode description. And also the episode description has a link to Change Insight, so you can check out all the great work that CASL is spearheading for the AANHPI community. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to catch the next episode of Sparking Innovation. Thanks for listening.